You're fresh out of Tutorial Island and thrown into Lumbridge Castle Yard. Your great adventure in this new world is about to begin. You see players of all levels running by or chatting with each other. It is now your choice to do whatever you want. Talk to other players, kill some low-level NPCs, roam endlessly into the vast world. But if you paid any attention to the tutorial, you will notice a quest icon on the minimap, a short distance to the west. It's not flashy, nothing's dictating that you should go that way, but it's there. You can choose to ignore it and go somewhere else, but eventually most players will end up in that kitchen. It is Cook's Assistant. This quest wants the player to help the cook bake a cake for the Duke. That's your objective. A cake. It's so ridiculous you can't help but to laugh at it, and you should. This quest's success thrives on its humor. The dialogue with the cook, especially, reinforces the silliness of the quest by having him act very desperate on the matter at hand. It gives newbie players a safe objective, something that will not stress them out on their early gameplay, something relaxed which they can complete at their own pace. It's too heavy of a destiny to be saving the world or fighting a war as soon as you're thrown into any game. It's so unrealistic to the more experienced gamers. World-shaping consequences? Already? I don't think so. It's important to remember that RuneScape as a whole is not exclusively about combat. In this regard, Cook's Assistant excelled in being a very simple, newbie-friendly quest, and is being very honest about it. But there's more. Cook's Assistant has some well-thought-out level design choices, little details that are often ignored, but were carefully placed to serve an intended purpose. As we already mentioned, this quest is aimed at newbies. It assumes that players attempting it are playing the game for the first time. That's the reason it's so close to the starting point. Should the player choose to wander off and die, again, he'll respawn at the starting point, giving him another chance to notice the quest. Now, two of the items to make progress in the quest are a pot and a bucket. These items are given to the player as soon as they leave Tutorial Island, along with other tools. Alternatively, they can be bought at very low cost from most general stores, one of which exists in Lumbridge Town. But Jagex went one step further to assist newcomers by adding two of these to the start point of the quest. One empty pot at the table next to the cook, and there's a bucket at the underground cellar should one climb down the ladder. It ties back to dying and respawning, where you lose all your items, and this is your chance to reclaim that pot and bucket. These two items indirectly reward players who are observant and curious enough and sets them back on track. At the same time, it promotes a continuous theme while questing. Exploration. To be keen of your surroundings for things you might need. Lastly, it teaches players another important gameplay mechanic. Item spawn points. In the Tutorial Island, the player learned to interact with objects that can produce items in your inventory. Trees for wood, rocks for ore, and fishing spots for fish. Now the player will actually pick up the items instead, as if they were dropped by monsters, with red dots on the minimap and orange text when right-clicked. Even if he doesn't pick up one of the respawnable items here, he will later learn this when he picks up the egg. With the egg, I want to mention another brilliant design choice for the quest. Pay attention to the map laid around Lumbridge. Even though the world is by no means linear, the game has two design paths when leaving Lumbridge Castle. One goes north, turns to the west leading to Draenor, and eventually to Falador. The second goes east and turns north to the Alcarid Gate, eventually reaching Varrock. Both of these paths followed will lead to chicken farms. This is no coincidence. Jagex deliberately placed the eggs on the paths leading to the two most popular cities of the early game. One of these paths leads to the cows where milk is gathered, and also the mill is located close to the path to Falador. You are very likely to see it if you attempt to pick wheat from the field nearby, which brings me to the next topic. Applying real-world logic. The quest wants you to acquire 3 items with relatively realistic methods, rather than the traditional kill and loot. Jagex expects the player to say, "Aha, chickens! Maybe I'll find an egg here." They will then maybe try to kill a few chickens, realizing that they don't drop eggs, and eventually they will see the respawnable egg. After all, you don't need to kill chickens in real life to get their eggs, and the same goes for cows and their milk. However, an egg is a solid object. You can hold it in your hand, whereas milk is liquid. You need a container to keep it in. Knowing that the quest journal specifies the need for a bucket of milk, and after seeing that cows don't drop those when they die, the game expects the player to think of using their empty bucket. We already know the bucket is able to contain water, as I previously did in the tutorial, and it was emptied when the player made bread. This is very crucial information here. Bucket of water turned into an empty bucket. It did not disappear. The reverse process, filling up the bucket, should be possible then, right? Combine that with the knowledge from smithing. That is, to use an item from the inventory an object and apply it to use the inventory item with an NPC. And congrats! The player learned another gameplay mechanic. So, the final item you need is flour. This one is tricky. You need to pick some grains from the wheat field, notice a mill nearby, climb to the top of the mill, throw the grains in a hole, click some levers, climb down, and finally collect the flour in your pot. While remaining true to real-world logic, the steps involved are a bit more complicated and almost act like a puzzle. They require the players to interact with several objects and obtain the desired item. The lesson here is how everything in the building is connected, how interacting with one object somewhere in the game can affect another somewhere else. We'll conclude with some of Cook's assistant's changes over the years. One minor change that affected the quest was the addition of dairy cows to differentiate from regular attackable cows. From this point onward, you could only get milk from the dairy variant. This was changed to deal with the issue of too many players killing cows and making it hard for people to gather milk. While this certainly had good intentions, I feel that it removed one valuable lesson of the quest by having a left-click option on the dairy cow. Finally, the 3 items involved used to be tradable to all players, but not anymore. Why this is good or bad is a topic for another time. Happy scaping! While remaining true to real-world while remaining true to the real-world, damn it, I did it again. However, an egg is a solid object. We already know that the bucket can, God